Hello, this is Mr. Emmon for your Government 2306 class. We will be meeting normally on Monday and Wednesday, 11:30 to 12:45. Hopefully you've been informed that the first 2 weeks of school have been put online. If you have any problems doing anything, understanding anything, feel free to contact me at my phone number, which is 956-393-8809. What we're going to do for this section, I'm going to go over the syllabus, kind of like what I would normally do during a regular semester. And so it would be a really good idea if you're watching this, if you're able to print off a copy or have some other copy so that you can follow along. Once we get finished, if you have any questions about any of the requirements, feel free to contact me, or you can wait till we come back to school, hopefully, after the first 2 weeks and meet in person, and you can ask me questions in person. So what I'm going to do in this video, and there will be another video where we'll do the first chapter's lectures, I'm just going to kind of go over some of the key points of the syllabus, some of the key points of what we're going to be doing this semester, so that you have an idea about what the class is going to be, what's going to be expected of you, these kind of things. Again, if there's something about the syllabus that you're not sure about, that you did not understand, feel free to contact me, call me at that number. The number is also on the syllabus that you can access vis-a-vis Blackboard. All right, well, let's get together and we'll get going. What are we going over this semester? This is Texas government. And one of the things that we're going to cover things like the origins and the development of the Texas Constitution, the structures and powers of state and local government, the concept of federalism and intergovernmental relations, political participation, the election process, public policy, and the political culture of Texas. And so we're going to cover a variety of things this semester, from what does our government kind of look like, the three branches, what does the population of the Texas looks like demographically when it comes to things like education, race, ethnicity, income levels, these kind of things. And so this is some of the stuff that we're going to be looking at. Okay, well, just so those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Jerry Inman. I'm located in my office, so if you want to come and do regular office hours, my office is located in Building T on the second floor, room 342. And I will be having office hours on campus on Monday and Wednesday from 3:15 to 4 o'clock. And then on Tuesday and Thursday, you will not be able to access me directly. You will be able to call, but I will have office hours at Valley View High School, where I teach in dual enrollment, and I'll have office hours from roughly around 11:40 to 12:45, and then 2:10 to 2:35. Now, some of the stuff in the syllabus we won't go over. Things like course learning outcomes, required core objective matrix, these kind of things, I'm not going to go over. You can read those if you wish to find out about them, but it's not something I'm going to go over with you, okay? And so what I'm going to go over is what you actually have to do for this course, okay? And so what are the course requirements? Well, first of all, there will be 4 exams during this semester. There will be 3 regular exams and a final. Okay, they will consist of multiple choice, most likely, or essay, depending upon what I choose to do. Okay, when it comes to the 3 exams, when we will take the exams will partly be determined by the pace of the class, but there will be general times where we're going to be trying to get to. Now, there is a schedule of when things are due and what says when we will try to have things done, but you never know what happens during the semester, and so those schedules are tentative at best. They're subject to change, okay? But we will have 4 exams, 1 for each section, and each section will have anywhere from 3 to 4 chapters that we'll go over, okay? And the final exam is an accumulative final. It covers everything that we covered for the entire semester. The great thing, though, about my final exam is that it is voluntary. It is optional. You are not required to take the final exam unless you have less than a 70 average in the class. When we get down and we complete the last regular week of the semester, and the next week is going to be finals week, if I've got all your grades have been turned in, I've got everything turned in, and I can look on your grade and grade book, and you have a 70 or higher, you do not have to take the final. The final is completely optional. Okay, now, if you do choose to take the final, one thing to know, taking the final can only help your grade. In other words, it's not going to lower your grade, okay? Because the way the final will work is if you take the final and if you score better on that final than you did on one of the other 3 exams, I will take that final score and put it in place of that regular exam score. Okay, and so there is no negative for you for taking the final exam other than the time and energy that you have to put in it. So if you take the final exam, only 1 or 2 things will happen. A, you get a high enough score that you get a higher letter grade. Whether you come from a C to a B or a B to an A, you go up. The other thing that happens is nothing. You maintained your score the way it was. Okay, and so if I told you before you took the final that you had a B, but you had an opportunity, if you score high enough, to get an A, and you don't get that A, you still have your B. And so there are nothing negative when it comes to taking the final exam. Now, when it comes to the exams, most of the material on exams will be based on your lecture notes. Okay. For every chapter, I will lecture, and when we're on campus, I will write lecture notes up on the board. Probably 70 to 80% of the questions that you will see on your exams come directly off of my lecture notes. Okay. The other 20 to so percent will come from the book. Okay, and so one of the things that you will need to do well on the exams is that you will need to learn to study your lecture notes, and you will need to know these notes backwards and forwards, inside and out. You also are going to have to know and have read the book. Okay, because if you want to do really well in the class, you're going to have to do well on those questions that are also originate out of the book. And you won't know what part of what chapter or whatnot, what I'll be putting in. I can take questions from any of the chapters that we cover. Okay. And so one of the things that you will need to do this semester is a good idea is as I give you lecture notes, okay, during most of the semester, it'd be a really good idea that you study them as you go along. Every day when you leave, or at least every Wednesday once you leave and you got your week's worth of lecture notes, it'd be a really good idea for you to spend 20, 30 minutes at least reviewing over those lecture notes. The idea would be is that by the time we get ready for you to study for your exams, you will already have done most of your studying. You should have a really good idea about what the lecture notes say. And so that when it comes time for you to study, you're not trying to learn this stuff fresh. You should already know most of it. And you're mostly just reviewing, making sure you have everything down the way you want to have it down. Okay. And so the exams will be a major component of your class. They are worth 60% of your course grade. And so if you wish to pass the class, and definitely if you wish to do well in the class, you will need to do well on these exams. Each exam is worth 20% of your course grade. All right, so that is the exams. You also will have 7 quizzes based on the 7 chapters that we will be testing over. Well, there will be other chapters that you will be assigned to read, but you won't necessarily have a corresponding quiz. Okay. These quizzes will be found on Blackboard. They will be open from the very first day of class. They are due no later than the last day of final week. So that Thursday of finals week, you can turn in these quizzes. Okay. I allow you that time because on Friday, I will go in, and if you've turned them in by the due date, the computer will grade it and will enter it into your grade book. Okay. Now, while you can turn these grade quizzes in towards the end of the semester, I strongly encourage each and every one of you to do these quizzes as we go through the chapters. One of the big reasons why is that these quizzes will help prepare you for the exams. Now, you won't necessarily see the exact same question, and almost certainly will not see them in the exact same format. But they will cover many of the same topics that we will cover throughout that section that will be finding its way on through the exams. Okay? And so you want to do that so it helps prepare you. Second of all, the last thing you want to find yourself in is that at the end of the semester, you got 3 or 4 or 5 of these quizzes that you haven't done. And you have to try to scramble to get them done by the due date. Because if by 11:59 p.m. that Thursday of finals week, you haven't got them turned in, they automatically become zeros. And while the quizzes aren't worth as much as your tests, they are worth 25% of your course grade. They are a significant chunk. And if you make 2 or 3 zeros on them, that can really pull down your average when it comes to the semester. Okay. And so you want to make sure you get your quizzes. And like I said, you have from the very first day to the last day to start on. If you want to get to work ahead in each section and get your quizzes done really quick, that would be a great idea. But you do need to try to have these quizzes done by the time we're ready to take the corresponding exams, because they do help you. And you don't want to have all of this towards the end of the semester. Okay. Well, another component of your grade this semester is there will be a writing assignment. Now, before you start freaking out, this is not a research paper. It is not going to require you to do a bibliography. You're not going to have to go really do much in the way of research. This is a simple 1 to 2 page. Basically, it's an essay. Okay. And it has to be between 1 to 2 pages. Now, the information for it will be found actually in your textbook. And each chapter, there's what's known as a you decide. And you know it's the you decide because it says this is the you decide. Okay. And these you decides are simply policy issues that impact the state of Texas. And what this you decide does, it gives you tells you a little bit about what the issue is, and then it gives you a pro side, those who support something. Then they give you the con, or those who oppose. And it gives you the arguments of the supporters and the arguments of the opponents. What you have to do is simply read that you decide, okay, where am I pro or am I con? And then look at what the arguments are, and then tell me, okay, here is what the argument is or the issue is, and here's where I stand. And then you have to tell me why. Okay, why do you support A over B? Or why do you support B over A? And by the way, it is potentially perfectly legitimate for you to be both pro and con. You don't have to be one or the other. You can legitimately argue and say, on this part of this issue, I agree with the pros. On this part of the issue, though, I agree with the cons. Okay? And so it's up to you. This is based on what you have read, the information that this you decide gives you. You decide how you feel about the issue, and then you simply tell me why. And it only has to be about 1 to 2 pages, although if you want to be on the safe side, you should try to write about a page and a half. The paper is worth 10% of your course grade. Okay. Now, the one thing to know about me when I start grading papers, one of the biggest issues that I have with this assignment every semester that I've had it is people not turning it in. They just don't do it. Now, you got to realize this is 10% of your grade. And if you don't fully understand what that means it's one complete letter grade. And so let's say after you've taken all your quizzes, you've taken all of your exams, and you have an 85 average. That's a B. That's a solid B. In other terms, you wouldn't even be thinking about taking the final exam because A, you've got a B, but B, you're too far from getting a higher letter grade. But you didn't turn in the paper. What does that mean? Well, that 85 becomes a 75. Now, you're still passing. You still do not have to take the final exam, but you lose an entire letter grade. And for those of you, if you happen to be on any kind of needs-based financial aid or anything like that, you want to grab as many good grades as you can in case you have classes that you don't quite do as well in, so that you don't all of a sudden find yourself losing your qualification. And so the paper writing assignment, not a big deal. You just need to do it. And by the way, I start grading at a 50. No matter how bad the paper is that you turn in. If you turn in something, you get a 50. Now, 50s are not a very good score, but they're a lot better than a 0. Okay? And so it's a really good idea to go ahead and jump on this early. By the way, you may turn in this paper whenever you wish. Okay, although I would suggest wait until we actually come to class and maybe we can have a little bit more of a discussion about it. But if you want to get on it, it'd be a really good idea to do so and get that paper turned in the first 3 or 4 weeks of school, then you don't have to worry about it. As soon as you turn it in and you're done, you're fine. And by the way, you are allowed to turn in a rough draft. Okay. Go ahead and put in, once you get something on the paper, your ideas down, go ahead and post that. Because up until the day it is due, you may go into Blackboard and make as many changes as you wish. You may clean it up, you may restructure it, you may continue checking on your vocabulary, your punctuation, your sentence structure. But if you go ahead and get that rough draft put in there, if something happens in the semester and you're not able to get it finished up, you at least got something turned in. And like I said, if you got something turned in, no matter how bad it is, all you can get is lowest grade you can get is a 50. And chances are, if you have the introductory, main body, conclusion paragraphs like you're supposed to, well, then you're probably not going to get a 50. You're probably going to get closer to a 60 or a 70 something. It's really easy to go from a 50 to a 70. It's a lot harder to go from a 70 to a 90. Okay, but you do have a paper. And if you have any questions about it, feel free to ask me. Students will also be required to turn in an email. Or send an email to an elected official. Okay. This is worth 5% of your course grade. And this is probably one of the simplest, easiest 5% grade that you could ever get. Okay. Because it's more or less a completion grade. You do it, you get it. You get 100 on it. You don't do it, you get a 0. And what you have to do is quite simply come up with an issue that is an issue for you that's impacting people here in the Rio Grande Valley. Say, okay, this is my issue, and then come up with a solution. And then send an email to an elected official who can handle that issue. Now, you do want to make sure it's an appropriate elected official. And if you're not sure about who would be the appropriate elected official, well, that would be something you should ask me. Because if I tell you send it to XYZ elected official, well, then you know that you've sent it to the appropriate official, as far as I'm concerned anyway. And considering I get to decide what is the appropriate official, is I'm always right, which means then you will be right. And so you need to figure out, okay, what is my issue and what I want to do about it. And you simply go on to their webpage. Most of them will have a webpage that you can go to. You say, this is my issue. This is what my solution is. And Lord knows right now, we have plenty of stuff that are issues, whether it be COVID, whether it be the economy, whether it be all the other stuff that's happening right now. There are tons of stuff that you can come up with. Now, when it comes to your issue, I don't care what the issue is. It's not my place. I don't care what your solution is. That is for you to decide. It's what's important to you, not me. Okay? The solution is your solution. It's what you think is best or what you think it needs to be done. Now, whether I agree with it or I disagree with it is completely irrelevant. Okay? And so once you send it, all you got to do is provide proof. And you get your 100. And matter of fact, you can turn that in at the end of the semester, although like your quizzes is a really good idea. You might as well go ahead and get it done. Because once you get it done, once you bring it to me, okay, even during the semester, a great day to bring it to me would be on the day of an exam. When we're in taking the exam, you bring me the proof that you sent the email. I can go into the grade book. I enter the grade there, and then you don't have anything to worry about. Okay? Really, really simple. If you're not sure about how to do it or who to contact, that kind of stuff, that's why you would come and talk to me about it. But you do have all semester in which to get that done. Although I do suggest as soon as you can, get it done. All right. Well, what are some of the other issues? Well, one would be late work. Okay. And so when it comes to late work, there's only really two pieces of late work, a work that really could be late. That is your paper, which has an internal due date, which will, by the way, will be the Thursday or the last day that we attend class Thanksgiving week. And so we will be there on a Wednesday. You need to have it turned in that Wednesday. Okay. If for some reason there's a problem, you're going to not be able to make that. Or the other would be exams, that you had something come up that you're not going to be able to make the day of the exam. You need to let me know in advance, or at least as soon as possible. And so how do you do that? Well, there's three primary ways that you can do it. And it might be a good idea to do all three of them. One is you can send me an email. Okay. 2, you can call me. 3, you can tell me in person if you know in time. Or 4, I guess there's a fourth one now. You can send a message via the Blackboard. Okay. I would suggest that you kind of do all of them. But as long as you let me know that, sir, I had this emergency, I'm not going to be able to make the test, I will let you make it up. Now, here's the thing. I'm not going to go to you and say, hey, don't forget you missed that exam or you haven't turned in your paper. It's your responsibility to turn it in. Or come to me and say, sir, I need to make up my exam. And then you have to get with me and figure out a time that you can take the exam. Okay? If you're not sure about this, once we come to class, come up to me after class or before class, before we get started, and come talk to me. And I'll be more than glad to explain it. Okay? If you do not come up and get that stuff taken care of, by the end of the semester, it becomes a 0. Okay? All right. Well, other issues. Cell phones. Okay? I know you will have your cell phones. I'm sitting here in my apartment with my cell phone. Okay, we all have cell phones together. When I first started teaching, almost nobody had cell phones. You do need, the only thing I ask is that you turn your cell phone to a silent mode. Okay, whether that be you completely turn off any kind of indicators or at least turn it to down so that the only thing it does is vibrate. If there's a problem with your cell phones constantly going off in class, I will tell you, you can't bring your cell phones back anymore. And if you then do that and you bring it back and it goes off again and disrupts the class, I'll tell you, you have to leave the class. And so the only thing you need to do is when you come in is turn your cell phone off. Now, if you forget once during the semester, don't worry. I can almost guarantee you in one of my classes, I'll have my cell phone go off because I will forget to turn it down. Okay? If you just do it once, we're all human. I'm not going to be in any kind of big problems with that. If you have any questions about that, let me know. All right. Well, one thing that I always end up having students ask me about by the end of the semester is, especially if you're getting close to a higher letter grade, is there any kind of bonus points? And the answer is yes. Matter of fact, you can get up to 15 points added to one of your major exams, three major exams. Okay. That will give you about 1.5 to 2 points roughly on your final exam average. Okay, or your final average for the course. And so what are these bonus points? Well, there's a number of things that you can do. And one of the things that you can do, and one of the easiest, and one that is more or less required, unless you happen to be someone like Jehovah's Witness or somebody else who has a religious objection, is registering to vote. Now, this is a government class. We're going to be talking about the state government of Texas. And if you take me for 2305, we'll be talking about the same stuff, but at the federal level. And for most of us, the primary way we can have some kind of impact on our government is through the power of the vote. That's how most of us are going to let our government be able to know, hey, this is what we want. This is what I want. This is what I want my government to look like. And if you are not registered to vote, you can't vote. Okay? And elections have consequences. Who's in office can have a profound impact as to whether the government does things to benefit you or potentially do things that are detrimental, whatever those happen to be. And so if you are 18 and if you are a U.S. citizen, you're more or less required to register to vote. Okay. Now, if you're already registered to vote, then it's simple. Bring me proof that you're registered. If you happen to know where your voter registration card is, you can bring that in to show me. If you're like me and have no way or no kind of idea where it is, okay, there is ways for you to go online to the Texas Secretary of State website, and there is a link that says, am I registered? You click it, you follow the process, and it will tell you exactly that you're registered or not. And you can print it off, or you can do it on your cell phone, take a screenshot of it, and simply show it to me. If you're not already registered, you will have to download the form, fill it out, sign it, date it, bring it along with an envelope that's stamped and addressed to the Texas Secretary of State or the local election office. Show it to me that you have it all done and ready to drop in the mail. If you do that, either one, you get 10 points. Okay, added to one of your exams. And by the way, I always wait until after you have at least 2 exams. Because since the final can replace one of them, most students have a tendency to say, I want it on my lowest, which is often your first. But you don't want to put the bonus points on your lowest exam. You want to put it on one that is not your lowest exam. Now, the reason is quite simple. You don't want to artificially raise the grade of that lowest exam, because then it takes away from you being able to use your final exam as effectively. So you, whatever your lowest exam is, you want that grade to stay the same in case you take your final. And by the way, it all comes out even in the wash anyway. There are 3 exams. They're worth 100 points apiece, total of 300. If you do your bonus points, it's a total of 310 or 315. Okay, so it doesn't matter which one it goes on to. Well, what else can you do? Especially, I know almost certainly in class, I'll have some people who are A, not 18 yet, B, you're not a U.S. citizen. Well, you have other options as well. One is one we have already discussed, an email. Now, you do have one email that is absolutely required. It's part of the course requirement. But you may take that same issue along with that same solution, or another one if you wish, and send it to another elected official. Doing that will get you an additional 5 points. Another option is to do some form of community service. And ladies and gentlemen, there are tons of opportunities to do community service. Okay. I'm not really concerned about it, what it is. It can be just about anything that benefits the community. If you go and you volunteer at, say, the Boys and Girls Club, one of the most popular things people like to, if you're an animal lover, there are animal shelters throughout the valley that quite literally need people to come in and play with the puppies and kittens. I know it sounds funny, but they need people to handle the puppies and kittens, and especially the puppies. Puppies that are handled by humans a bunch when they're real little make much better pets. They begin to feel like humans, or either dogs or humans. I'll let you figure out which one you want to think that it is, but they make much better pets. And so they need people to come in and play with the puppies, the kittens, hold them, handle them, do all that kind of stuff. Now, just be forewarned. If you say, yeah, I want to go play with the puppies and kittens, they're probably going to give you the vinegar before they give you the honey. And if you've ever went to one of these places and volunteered, often the vinegar is cleaning out the kennels. And if you know anything about puppies, and lesser extent kittens, they're little pooping machines. Okay? And so you're going to have to do some cleaning up probably first. But afterwards, then you get to play with the puppies and kittens. Other things that people have done is believe it or not, many of you may not know it, there's a butterfly park here or in Mission. There's several others, all kinds of other stuff that you can do. For those of you who are active in your church, for the most part, any kind of volunteering through the church is fine with me. The one exception is, the only thing that you have to make sure it is that it has to benefit the community, not your church. And so, for example, I had a young lady years ago ask if she could use the fact that she and some other members of their church youth group were going out trying to get people to come to their church. I had to tell her no, for the simple reason is that benefited her church primarily, not the community. After that, she looked at me and said, well, another thing we do through the same youth organization is that once a month or so, they went out to this poor community that had a lot of older people who had small wood frame homes, and they would find people and volunteer to clean up their yard. They would clean up all the trash, they would mow, they would trim trees, and then one of the big things they would do is they would paint the people's houses for them. Okay? It was part of their religious training and religious requirements that they go out and service the community. The fact that it was through their church, well, that's just happened to be the way they were doing it. Something like that works perfectly fine. The only thing is it has to be benefiting the community. And by the way, most stuff that churches do things to try to benefit the community. And so you can do that kind of stuff, there's all kinds of things. If you have any questions about what you're wanting to do, whether it will work, it's real simple. Ask me, and I can tell you about 99% of the time, I'm going to tell you yes. It's only been a handful of times have I had people ask something that I had to tell them no. You do the community, and how long do you have to do it? Just for a few hours. Okay, this isn't something that you have to spend, an hour a week all semester long. You go out, spend a couple of hours, help them doing whatever, bring some kind of proof. The most common proof people bring if they're doing stuff out in the community is they take selfies of themselves or have someone take a picture of them doing whatever. And then you just show me the picture. All right. So if you do that second thing, whether it be a second email, whether it be a community service, some kind of community service, that gives you an extra 5 for a total of 15. And you can turn that in on or after the second exam. And by the way, you can turn that in the last day of class. It is not uncommon for people figuring out that, hey, I need just a few extra points to get a higher letter grade, and they run out and they get some stuff done. Now, the community service can be problematic, but stuff like the emails are pretty simple, or registering to vote. All right. Well, the next thing I'm going to talk about is something that is something that I've never really had problems here on the con campus or any of the main college campuses. It's something that's really generally has been more for my dual enrollment on high school classes, although other universities have had problems with this. And this is parent contact. Now, under no circumstance will I talk to a parent about a student's performance in the class or any matters concerning the topics and presentations of course materials. The simple fact is that if you are in my class, whether you're actually 18 or not, you are considered to be a legal adult. And you have what is known as the right to privacy. I can't legally, under federal law and state law as well, talk to people about your performance in the class without your permission. Okay? And so if you have a parent that is a little too involved in your education, tell them, do not call me, do not text me, do not email me, do not come by and try to talk to me, because I will not talk to them. Okay? Now, this is a problem that in some of the more elite institutions, they apparently have had a lot of problems with. You've probably all heard the term helicopter parents. Well, some of these parents take that to an extreme. I read an article about a young woman. She was headed off to college for the first time, and her mom was concerned about her transitioning into college. The mom had to be removed manually, physically. The police, campus police, PD, had to grab her by the arms and escort her off the campus. The problem was, mom decided that she was going to spend the first 6 weeks or so of her daughter's freshman year at college sleeping on her daughter's dorm room floor to help her transition into college. Now, if my parents' mom would have tried that, I would have killed her. Okay. The closest thing my parents had to transition me to college is when I loaded up my car to go off for the first time. My dad looked at me and said, "Hey, all right, boy, I'll see you when you get back." And he walked into the house, and I drove off to college. I'm pretty sure as he was walking into the house, he was saying, "One down, one to go," because I had a younger sister that was still in high school behind me. Okay. But some parents go way overboard with this. And if your parent has a tendency to maybe to do that kind of stuff, you need to have a talk with them and tell them, do not come by doing that stuff because I won't talk to them. Okay. And so I will not talk to your parents. Now, there are forms that you can fill out that would allow me to talk to the parents, your parents. The problem is that a form allows me to talk to your parents. It is still my sole discretion as to whether I would do it or not. And I will go ahead and tell you right now, my answer is no. Now, I have talked to parents before, but that was because of emergency situations. Child was sick. One example was a young lady in my class. She was pregnant. She was having severe problems with her pregnancy. They were afraid that she might miscarriage, and she wasn't able to contact me, and the mom contacted me to let me know what was going on. That's a little different situation. But if it's just because you want to know, or your parents want to know what you're doing in class, what you're being taught, what you're doing, all that kind of stuff, no. I'm not going to talk to your parents. So tell them, do not come talk to me. If you have any questions about that, feel free to contact me or wait till we get back on campus and you come up and you can talk. All right, dropping class. Okay. Just so that you know, I do not drop students from my class for any reason, including not showing up to class. If you simply stop showing up to my class, you're going to get whatever grade you get, which, depending on when you do it, probably means you're almost guaranteed to get an F. Okay. If you decide that you need to stop attending class, it's your responsibility to go and drop yourself in from the class. And by the way, I don't even know how to do it as a faculty member. I've never done it. Okay. And so you have to do that. Okay. You have to drop. Okay. Lastly, a word on academic dishonesty, aka cheating. If I catch you cheating on an exam, on a quiz, that kind of stuff, it's an automatic F in the class. You're much better off doing your own work and getting whatever you get. Okay. It's not worth it. It's something that can follow you on your official transcripts from STC from the rest of your life. I actually have a true story about when I was in college. I was taking a class, and it was a music appreciation class. Now, if you've taken a music appreciation class here at STC, they're real classes. I mean, you have to work at them to pass them. But where I went to college, at the senior college I went to, music appreciation was one of those classes that everybody knew that if you took it, you were going to get an A, basically. And the professor that was teaching my class happened to be the head of the music department. And he taught this class once a year in the fall. And as he told the class, it was this one time to simply have fun with his students. And to give you an idea about the class, about half the time in the class, what we did, we watched Looney Tune cartoons. And some of you may not be familiar with them, but that's like Bugs Bunny, the Roadrunner, these kind of people. And the reason was quite simple. If you've ever watched Looney Tunes, they're nothing but classical music. Well, it comes time for us to take our first exams. Not only does he give us the questions that we're going to be asked on the test, and it's going to be multiple choice, he gives us the right answer to make sure there's no questions about what the answer is. Now, he tells us, go home, study this, and come back. So this was like Wednesday or Friday, and I come back the next day to take the test. And I've taken the exam, and me and some few friends that I'd made in the class, we had studied for about 30 or 40 minutes, and we had everything memorized. And I'm flying through the test, and I'm about halfway finished when I hear and see a commotion behind me. And I kind of peer behind my shoulder and see the professor taking a test from two guys and telling them to leave. Well, I turned back and finished my test. I was kind of like, well, it ain't my business. And so I get out of class, and me and several people were going, what was going on? And the only thing we could figure is that maybe he caught him cheating, and that's exactly what he did. These brain surgeons, instead of spending 25, 30, 40 minutes studying, wrote the answers down, A, B, C, D, E, whatever, on a crib sheet and brought it into class. Well, the problem is while the professor gave us the questions with the right answers, on the exam had the same questions and the same right answer, they were in a different order. Okay. And so they were going to fail anyway. Well, he kicked them out of the class and gave them an F. Well, that was all he was going to do. But unfortunately for these young men, there was an older student, actually probably about my age, in the class. And when the professor told the class what he had done, that guy raised his hand and said, Professor, I don't think that's sufficient. I think they need to be kicked out of the college. Well, the professor looked at him and says, well, I've done what I'm going to do, but you have the right to appeal my decision. And so do what you feel like you need to. You're not going to hurt my feelings. You're not going to get in trouble with me, whatever. And he said, well, I think I want to appeal this up. He said, well, normally you would go to the head of the department, but you're already talking to him. And so the next person to talk to is the dean. Well, the guy went all the way up to the president of the university. Got all these guys, both of these guys kicked out of all of their college classes, out of the entire college. And so on their official transcripts from Sam Houston State University, where I was attending, for the fall of 1989, they have Fs in all of their classes, and the notation for the F, it was for academic dishonesty. It's not worth it. No telling how long it took these young men to be able to get back in college, assuming they ever did. Okay, so it's simple. Don't cheat. It's a lot easier simply to study and pass the grades. And if you're not sure about what to study, if you're not sure about what you need, how you need to do things, there's a real simple solution. Come and talk to me. Nobody knows better than me what you need to do in order to do well in my class. And I can give you ideas about how to study, what to do, these kind of things, that for the vast majority of students that have asked, if they actually do them, they see drastic improvements in their grades. All right, well, so that is the more or less the policies for my class. Okay, now if you want to get an idea about what is required for the various chapters and tests, there is a section in the syllabus called assignments, and it will tell you what chapters are what for what exams. Okay. When it comes to Texas, the textbook, you need Texas Politics, Ideals and Realities, okay, by Newell, okay. And yes, you do need a book. You need to get the book as soon as possible. Now, whether you get a hard copy, whether you get a paperback, whether you get an ebook, that doesn't matter. I don't care. Whichever one works for you. Okay. The only thing I say and that you do need to do is two things. One, get the book. Two, after spending about $100 or more on that book, read the damn thing. Read the chapters. You need to read the chapters. Okay. And reading chapters once, while it's better than nothing, for a college class like this, particularly since the vast majority of you in here are not political science majors, you probably could care less about this class, you need to read them several times. Generally, what I recommend that students do is to take the chapters, break them up roughly into thirds, which will roughly be about 10 pages. Read those 10 pages, then immediately go back and reread them. The reason I suggest that you do this is the first time you read that chapter, you have no idea what the chapter's going to be talking about, those 10 pages. Now that you've read it, well, now you have an idea about what they're going to be talking about. If you go back and immediately reread it, you can start really kind of thinking about it and kind of analyzing it and maybe try to apply it. Okay? Then go off after you read it the second time. maybe for a few hours, well, maybe for a day or two. It just depends. And then reread it. Now, it sounds like a lot of work. And there's a good reason why it sounds like a lot of work. It is. But welcome to college. If you want to graduate, if you want to pass your classes, if you want to get a college degree, that's the kind of work that it requires. Now, the good thing is, as you get further along in your college career, it gets harder. There's more work, but you get used to it. And so I can guarantee you, if you graduate by the time you're a senior and you're a graduating senior and you're about to walk across the stage, if you came back and looked at this class, you would shake your head and say, why did I think that was a lot of work? How did I think that class was hard or whatnot? Okay. But if you do that, if you read that way, it can really, really help. Okay. Students who have done that have seen letter grade increases in their test scores. Okay. If not a letter and a half or more. Okay. And so it does work. And it will make also answering the quiz questions so much easier. When you come to class, if you've read before you show up to class, when I start talking about stuff, it makes a lot more sense because you already know a lot. You've already been exposed to it. And then my lectures will make more sense and be more understandable. And the more you go over this material, the better. There's a simple fact when it's something like this or anything to learn it, you have to repeatedly go over it. It's just like when you first learn to ride a bike or you learn to walk, if you can remember that. You didn't get one lesson and you were done. It took practice. If you're an athlete, if you're someone who was in band, if you're anybody who did something that required practice, constantly going over and over and over, practicing, going over and over and over, it's the same thing. Now, there are the lucky few who are just such brainiacs that they don't have to do that. But they don't come here, okay? They go off to major for colleges right off the bat and all that kind of stuff. And even them, sometimes they will get in classes that they have to learn how to do that, okay? And so this is just something that 95% of the people you know that graduated from college, they had to learn to do, that you just had to put in the time and the effort. It takes time and effort to graduate from college. All right, well, next thing we're going to talk about, okay, is some expectations. Instructors' expectations. Student responsibilities. 1, show up to class on time. Now, normally I give people mulligans the first couple of weeks of class because you got to figure out where to park, whether the parking lot's going to have space available when you get here, where the room is, that kind of stuff. Unfortunately, we're spending those 2 weeks online. And so I'll have to give you that when we come to campus. Try to get to class on time. If you are late, things happen. I understand that. Come in quietly, sit down with a minimum of disruption. Okay? But show up to class on time. Complete the chapter readings in a timely manner. Again, if you have at least read the chapter before you come to class, before we discuss it, it's going to be a lot easier for you to learn the material. My lectures will make a lot more sense. When I ask a question to the class, there's a really good chance that you're going to be able to answer the question, or at least get it partially right. Okay, so complete the readings in a timely manner. If a problem arises during the semester, inform the instructor. If something happens and you can't keep on doing your stuff, okay, or whatever, you need to let me know. It very well could be an issue that I can't do anything about, and maybe you're going to have to drop the class. But there's also the possibility that maybe there's something I can help you with. And if there's something I can do that can help you stay in the class that's not out of bounds for me to do, I will be more than glad to do that. But if I don't know there's a problem, then I can't do anything to potentially help. Okay, so if there is a problem, let me know. Okay, complete assignments on time. Again, that's really, taking the exams, turning it into paper. Your quizzes, you should get them done within the exams, but you can turn them in at the end of the semester. Be an active participant of the class. Once we get the class in our own campus, I won't just do what I'm doing here, where I'm just talking at you. You want to talk about being boring. If for 2 days out of the week, you go for an hour and 15 minutes, you just got to listen to me talk at you. You better bring some Notos or a big old jug of coffee, because that is as boring as it can be. Matter of fact, it's very boring for myself. So I know if it's boring to me, it has to be boring for all of y'all. And so by being an active participant, there's two things that I mean. One, I will, throughout the class, routinely ask questions of the class concerning the topics or whatever we're talking about. If you think you know the answer, answer it. The worst possible thing you will be is you'll get it wrong. And ironically, that's not at all a bad thing. If you get it right, you get it right for one of two reasons. A, you already knew the answer, therefore you didn't learn anything. Or B, you were lucky. If you do not get it right, and then we discuss about what the right answer is, the chances are you're not going to forget that. You're going to remember that for at least as long as it takes to get to the exam, and you may remember that for the rest of your life. And so getting answers wrong isn't a bad thing. I don't expect you to know all of this stuff. Okay, matter of fact, if you knew all of it, there would be no reason to have this class, and I wouldn't have a job. And I kind of like my job, and so don't worry about getting it wrong. Be an active participant. The other thing is, if you have a question, especially if it's directly on point of what we're talking about, or if it's about some of the major issues that are happening in the world today, and you're concerned about something, you don't understand something, raise your hand and ask. If we have time, if it's sufficiently important, I'll take some time in class to talk about it. Or at the very least, I will tell you, we can talk about it after class. Okay, but I can guarantee you, if you have a question about that, there's almost certainly some other people in the class that also have questions about it. And some of the most important discussions I've ever had in class did not necessarily have to deal with the material that we're talking about. They were important events that were happening out in society in the world at that time. Okay. You can go and read and see that we have 3 branches of government for the state of Texas. But understanding how the world works and how this stuff impacts all of us, that is something that's more difficult to do. And that's something where someone like myself and your other instructors and professors have the knowledge and experience that we can explain things often that you yourself would have a hard time getting information. And unfortunately, right now in this world, there's a lot of information out there that is flat out false and that people are flat out lying about. And so be an active participant. Keep absences to a minimum. Now, I understand sometimes life gets in the way, especially for those of you who have young children at home. They have a habit of figuring out the perfect time to get sick or something else that is the most inconvenient. This is something they're good at. Okay. Outside of something like that, there is a direct correlation to how often that you're in my class and how well that you do. For students who attend regularly and miss as little as they can, they generally do better. And so try to keep absences to the minimum. And if you can't help it, call me or email me and let me know, sir, I wasn't able to attend class. This is what happened. And I will work with you if you missed an exam, if you missed material, lecture notes, we'll work together to make sure you get that information. And then once you get the lecture notes, if you have any questions about it, then you're always free to come and talk to me, which you always are during office hours or any other time that you can get a hold of me. Okay. And students are expected to talk to the instructor about their grade at least once during the semester. If anytime during the semester you go into your Blackboard My Grades and you have less than a 70 average, definitely if you have less than a 65, you need to come talk to me. And let's find out where you are, what you need to do. Now, it could be a situation you just weren't feeling good the day of the first exam, you didn't do very well, and by the way, if you bomb one exam, it's not the end of the world. Not even close. You can make a 30 on the first exam and still end up with an A in the class because you can take the final. Okay. And so if your grades are below 70, particularly below 65, you need to come talk to me. Let's make sure that you're in an okay situation and maybe talk about, maybe what some things that you need to do. Okay. All right. Class cancellation policy is there. Hopefully we won't have to do that, but we'll know. Okay. Topic outlines. There is actually a outline that shows when we plan on or should be doing stuff. Okay. Again, those are subject to change. Okay. We're no telling what could happen. We could come back, be back in school a week. The next thing we know, a Category 5 hurricane's headed for South Padre. Needless to say, that's going to throw the schedule into turmoil. Okay. If you read on down the bottom of the syllabus, there's a bunch of other stuff here that you can look at if you want to. The one thing that I would do is pregnant and parenting students. Ladies, I will never ask a woman if you're pregnant for two reasons. First of all, if you ask her and she's not, that's an embarrassing situation. Secondly, we're not supposed to. Okay. But if you are pregnant and if your pregnancy becomes an issue for you vis-a-vis the class or other classes, you need to let me know. There are rules about how faculty have to deal with particularly pregnant women and even parents who have young children. Okay. And if you're having some problems, you need to make sure you go to the school and get the agent, the part of the school that deals with that, involved. What they can do is make sure that you are given the opportunities for makeup and that kind of stuff. As a faculty member, I have no choice. It's federal law that says that I have to do it. And the college will make me. Okay, although that's not a problem. For me, I mean, if you were home because your child was sick, well, I'll be there to make sure that you're able to make up whatever work you are. But if you get the school involved, then you're guaranteed. You don't have to worry about it. All right, that's pretty much it. Okay, there's other stuff that you can read about the syllabus. So you can simply go into when you went into Blackboard, you saw a link that says syllabus. You click on it. It'll take you to the concourse syllabus where you can read the syllabus, read it yourself. If you have any questions, my phone number is on there. Again, it's 956-393-8809. Call me. Do not text, but call me if you have a question, or you can email me. Otherwise, you can wait until we show up for class and you can ask me in person. If you have any other questions, please let me know. Have a great day, and hopefully we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Goodbye.